In 1907, cinematic innovation went up a gear. Look at the horse that bolted by the Frenchman, Charles Pathé. A man leaves his horse on the street as he delivers food to an upstairs customer. The horse spies something to eat and tucks in. Cut to the man climbing the stairs. Then cut back to the horse, which isn't doing a new thing. It's still eating. Then back to the man just a second later.
The story of film on Odyssey, it's 15 hours long. It's the longest film ever screened at this festival. Where do you even begin to start with a project that huge in scope?
Well, I wrote a book called The Story of Film about 10 years ago, and film history is so big, you have to choose a theme. And so I decided to choose the theme of innovation in cinema. I didn't want to look at showbiz or money or stardom or Oscars or any of that rubbish. I wanted to look at who were the innovators, who were the great filmmakers who renewed cinema. And so once you've got a theme, then it makes it easier to plan. And so I just got a big map of the world and I looked at every country and I thought, who was the innovator there in Japan, and who were the innovators in Sweden, and who were the innovators in Iran and Czechoslovakia and Britain and everywhere. So once a combination of a map and a theme really made it doable.
And was it difficult to balance covering all the innovators that you had to cover and all the geographical regions and giving the film your own personal voice?
When we first started making it, we thought this film would run a massive 6 hours. Little did we know it would triple in size. It was very difficult. There's a section that we showed today at the festival, which was about the new wave that swept around the world in the 60s. And that section, when we first cut it, was nearly 6 hours, and we had to cut it down to 3 hours. So the most painful bit by far was cutting out great filmmakers. We had to cut out Preston Sturges, we had to cut out Eric Romer, we had to cut out Jacques Rivette. All these master directors hit the cutting room floor. So that was painful. And it would have been really wrong to just make the story of film like a list. Then this happened, then that happened, then that happened, then that happened. That would have been exhausting. It had to have texture, and as you say, it had to have this degree of personality, and I would say poetics. It had to feel more like poetry than prose, and so it couldn't have been too rushed. This scene from The Empire Strikes Back shows how enduring the discovery was. Darth Vader is on the left of screen, looking right. His underling, to whom he's speaking, is in a separate shot, looking left. Because of the 180-degree rule, we completely believe that they're looking at each other.
Set your course for the Hoth system.
When you talk about all that you had to cut out, will we ever see a director's cut version?
There are 4 hours or so lurking around of material that isn't quite fine cut, that maybe it would take us a week or so, but we could probably make an extra 4 hours. To make a 15-hour film over 6 years and 2 years in the edit means you're absolutely exhausted afterwards. So I'm not going to revisit it anytime soon, but maybe in a few years, myself and my editor and my producer will go back and have a look at the extra material.
At KVIFF, you've been showing the film in 5 3-hour sections. What kind of reaction have you had from the audiences here?
The reaction here has been lovely. It's not loads of people go to see such a long film, but those who do, everyone comes back. And there's a growing sense of community. Day 2, day 3, people start to recognize each other, and people start. The question and answers become more personal. After the 3rd day, people were telling me about their experiences in cinema, their life in cinema, you could say. And cinema, I think the story of film is also like the story of our lives. Movies are like the autobiography of our times in a way. And people start to recognize that, and the discussions become more personal, and I love that. 1944, World War II, the Normandy beaches. A bunch of Allied troops have just plunged underwater to stop being shot by German machine guns. Above the water's hell. Bullets tinkle on iron. Cameras all over the place.
You also have a movie screening here. What is this film called Love? 78 minutes long, and the budget apparently was $10. How do you make a feature-length film for $10?
After making a 15-hour film, I wanted to make something the way you might write a song on a guitar just by strumming, improvised, an ad hoc, an ad-lib way of working. So I had my little flip camera, which I carry everywhere with me, and I was traveling around publicizing the story of film, and I found I had 3 days in Mexico City with nothing to do. So I got my little flip camera out and walked around Mexico City and filmed things, and it cost basically nothing. And it was so liberating to work in such a free-form way. I didn't know that a film would come out of it, but then we edited it and sent it to some musicians like PJ Harvey, Simon Fisher Turner, and they liked it and gave us their music, and so we had a film.
Finally, tell us about your own travelling film festival that you set up with the actress Tilda Swinton.
Tilda Swinton and I have been working together for a while. Each time we do something different, and once we did a travelling event. It was called a pilgrimage, and we got a 36-ton truck which opens out into an 80-seater cinema. And we started on the west coast of Scotland, and we drove, but mostly pulled the truck. The audience pulled the truck with a tow rope between villages, and then we'd stop at the village maybe about 5 o'clock. We'd spend an hour opening the truck into a cinema, and then we would show films. And it was just hilarious. Children loved it. That sense what we're really going to pull the cinema ourselves. And at a more touching level, cinema is about community and doing something together, a collective endeavor. And it felt so much a collective endeavor to go 1, 2, 3, and the truck moved, and it was fascinating.
What kind of distances are we talking about?
Oh,
here?
not very much at all. No, like 3 miles at a time or something like that.
And how many people?
There would be 45 people on the rope at any one time. Some people, I have to say, were basically going, and Tilda and I were like, and their photographs and she and I are red and sweating, and other people haven't broken sweat at all. I don't think they were putting as much effort into it as we were.